We're here today with Emeka, co-founder of Cofundie. What does Cofundie do?
So Cofundie is a platform for crowdsourcing funds for developing buildings using alternative materials. So we saw that there was a huge housing deficit in West Africa, especially. In Nigeria alone, it's 20 million units every year. And it wasn't like there were no houses. There were houses, but people just couldn't afford those houses. And why were people still building houses that people couldn't afford? It was because the guys who fund real estate traditionally are more interested in funding those kinds of luxury buildings. So we decided to create a means for funding affordable buildings using alternative materials.
Wow, I love that, because it really is a huge need. And I'm always asking myself, just looking at the average income of people, how do the general folks, how do they afford a house? How can they do that with the little paycheck that they get? So what kind of different materials do you use?
Yeah, so that's actually very interesting. We currently are focused on building with rammed earth. It's a mixture of like mud, some cement, and some binding agents. But long term, we want to also fund buildings using alternative materials like bamboo, containers, polystyrene panels. And we also like to invest in R&D into seeing how we can convert waste into building materials. But for now, we're focused on rammed earth.
Wow, I really love that. Because we've met some projects that are doing alternative construction, but it seems that you guys, you want to take it to another level because you've created a platform, right? Can you share more about the platform idea and how that is working?
Yeah, so I think we realize and we see that the current way that houses are built, the way the real estate industry in Africa especially operates is not sustainable. We know it's not going to work long term. So we want to be the guys who fund all these guys you mentioned that are looking for alternative ways of building. We want to be able to provide them the funds they need to take what they're doing a step further. So it's like all these alternative means of building are out there, but why are they not mainstream? They're cheaper, they're better, they saw some of that, they're even better for the environment even. But why are they not in use? It's because like nobody's funding those things. So our platform basically raises the funds and then we direct those funds to these people who are trying to build with alternative materials. So that's how we want to, that's the best way we see to plug into that industry.
Wow. I mean, you guys just started out, so you're just right now funding your first project, right? What kind of project is that you're funding right now?
So it's a single family unit, it's in Ghana. Okay. It's made with rammed earth. It's actually really small, 120 square meters. But it's meant to house just one family. It has if I'm not mistaken, it has 2 rooms upstairs and 1 downstairs. And we expect to sell it for around $60,000 to $65,000 when it's ready.
Wow. And you're just currently raising the funds for that. What is your business model as the platform?
Even how do we make money?
Yeah,
so we make money from the profits from the buildings.
Okay.
Right? So when the buildings are funded and they're sold, then we take a percentage of the profits.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I mean, I checked the website before. You promised 20% for investors. It's like a crowdfunding project. If I invest now, I get 20% after
9 months.
9 months. Wow. So if I put in money today, in 9 months I should have 20% return on investment. How can you create such a big return for people?
Okay, so like I said, the materials we use cost less, like sometimes 20 to 40% less than traditional comparable buildings using traditional materials. So already like right off the bat, we're already like ahead of people who are building those similar projects using traditional materials. So since they cost less, and then we always make sure that we take everything into consideration, like where we site it. We're looking at suburbs, not like in the city centers, places where the land costs less, and also because we are not actively looking to make a huge profit from just one project, so we put more, we can charge less, which means that we can attract buyers faster than traditional buildings would attract, and then that means that we can then sell faster. We're taking a very, very little percentage of the building, so then we can provide more ROI to investors.
So your vision is to go scale not just to survive on 1 or 2 projects per year or something. You really want to be the platform that finances these alternative methods of building. Wow, and you make it commercially interesting.
I think one of our goals is to mainstream, like our overarching goal is to mainstream alternative materials. So right now, if you say you're building with rammed earth, it's still new. People want to know what's rammed earth. Homes with containers is still not a thing in Africa, right? Even though we have so much container waste, right? Currently, it's cheaper for shipping companies to just leave their containers here and then move out. So there's all these containers that are here. So, but it's still new. Our goal is to make it mainstream. Like if you see a house with it's fine. See a house with containers is also fine. Yeah. That's our long-term goal.
How did you come up with this idea? Are you from the building industry originally, or?
So I'm actually not from the building industry, but I come from a family of people who are heavily involved in real estate. But members of my team are involved in real estate. But the idea actually came out from a couple of things, experiences that me and my teammates had faced like over the years. You know, like after I graduated from university, I had to move back into my parents' house because I couldn't afford any decent house. And where I was living was very far from where my office was, where I got a job was. So it really used to get to me that if I had to get a place that was decent, I would have to spend close to 60% of my salary, which didn't sit well with me. So
transportation?
For accommodation, if I wanted to get my own place,
okay.
I had to spend up to 60% of my salary, and I didn't want to do that. So that got me thinking a lot about it. Then on the flip side, I had always wanted to be able to invest my money in something that I could see, like something realistic. So you see that those two things, you know, I've been thinking about them. So sometime during the Meltwater Entrepreneurial Training Program, just there, you know, somehow, you know, working with my team, thinking of like a way that we could bring those two things together. So that was sort of where the idea came out from.
So basically, you had the first-hand experience what it means for someone young here in Africa to want to own their own place or even just rent a place, and how impossible that is for. Wow. So were you working at an office job at the time, or what did you do when you came out of university?
Yes, I got a job right out of university working for an edutech startup called Total Prep. So what we did was we'd help teachers in universities digitize their teaching notes and then offer it to students across the country. Because usually the curriculum in Nigeria is pretty much the same anywhere you go, any university, if you're doing the same course, it's probably the same thing. So we wanted teachers to be able to digitize their teaching materials and then probably make some money off of it.
Okay, so they can sell it.
They could sell it. They could monitor their students. They could, and we had like an analytics feature that could tell the teacher the students that were doing well. They could tell the teachers what topics the students were understanding and everything. So that was where I worked when I just right out of university.
What did you study in university?
So I studied computer engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's got you into this tech startup basically?
Yes, exactly.
And then how did you, when you decided to make the transition into Meltwater School for Entrepreneurship, what did your parents and your immediate environment say when you said, okay, I want to start my own thing?
Yeah, it was actually a struggle and a fight at home, because it was like crazy. You have a job right after school. That's not something everybody can say, and you want to just quit it to do your own thing. Like, you can do it side by side, but I felt deep down that this was something that needed my 100% attention and focus. And I knew, somehow at the back of my head, I knew if I wanted to do this was probably the best time I could do it. I was still young enough that I can, you know, make mistakes and stand up and all that. So when my parents saw that there was no convincing me, they were like, okay, that's fine.
Wow. So did you have anyone in your environment that, you know, that supported you as a mentor, or that, you know, with this struggle with the family, you know, and everyone's saying, well, is this really a good idea? Where did you take the courage or the trust from to say, okay, no, it makes sense? Did you have any role models or mentors? Yeah,
of course. I have an uncle who is very close. We have the same birthday actually, so I grew up being very close to him. And when he heard about it, he called me and said, come, I want to talk to you. So he asked me, what do you want to do? Explain to me, and then I explained it to him, and he thought, he's like, okay, you know what, you're right. I think it's something you should do now, if ever. So he reported back to my parents saying, just let him do what he wants to do, it's fine. Yeah. Like, what he's saying makes sense. If he's going to do it, this is probably the best time he's ever going to do it. So I think when they heard him talk, because he's also an entrepreneur on his own, he raised himself up, brought himself to where he is today by himself. So they were inclined to listen to him, and that helped.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I always find that, even if you have just one person that can encourage you or trust you or think along your lines, that you can bounce ideas off, is already helpful. Even if everyone else says it's a bad idea, but this one person's at least someone to trust, and that there is a possibility of making it, can be so helpful. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for sharing it. Yeah. Now, then when you transitioned from you quit your job, you said, okay, full attention on this new project, full attention, full focus. What were your first steps to making this a reality?
Yeah, so I realized my limitations. I had the things I was good at, but there were things I wasn't so great at myself. So, and this was during the Meltwater Entrepreneurship and Training Program. So it was first thing was to find a team of people who were interested in what I was trying to do, who had the same vision as I did, and which I was lucky enough to find a very, very amazing team of people. It's a lady, her name is Zara, she's from Gambia, and another guy, his name is Kojo from Ghana. So we're actually very international team, exactly. I thought to mention that. And we came together, started ideating around it. Another thing we realized was, in order for us to do this, we needed to be grounded in real estate, investment, and how all those things work. So we went back to buy online courses and basically get certified as real estate investment analysts. Wow. So we all took the courses, went through the process ourselves. So right now, I'm a computer engineer, but I'm also a qualified real estate investment analyst. So those were all the things that we did. And the training program at MEST basically teaches you how to build a business from scratch in the African environment. So that also helped us to do what we needed to do. So it took us 8 months, but yeah, we're here today.
Okay, wow. I love that, because what you share is that you did not try to skip a step, but you said, okay, let us really understand the market and what we're dealing with. So you just said, basically you said, okay, let me further my education. So, now I'm thinking like maybe your parents were thinking, but even if your startup did not work out, you would have now a completely new qualification that you could also get a job anytime.
Yeah, it's like, and it's weird because when I have to feel my skills down, I just realize I actually have training on real estate investment analysis. So I just write it down, and it's still surreal to me that this is actually a skill that I picked up because I needed it. I didn't just, it was something I needed to have. So I went and I learned it, and it's actually been paying off. Because
this is something I always or oftentimes see with changemakers. They're very deliberate about their choices. Like when you get out of high school or something, most of us, I would say, it's my guess, we don't really know what we want to do with our lives, so we just study something, and we are like in this prepared path that society has laid for us. We say, okay, let me study business administration. I heard it's easy to get a job for that or something. But I think the moment that people decide, okay, let me create something and I have a purpose, then they become very deliberate about what they study, why they study it, and they just don't just aimlessly stand around. If they want to invest in solar, they study that field. If they want to do something in real estate, they study that. So I think that's a good takeaway.
Yeah, exactly. Because I had the same problems myself. Because when I got into university, I knew I loved software and I wanted to do something in computers, but I didn't really have a full understanding of what it meant. So computer engineering makes sense. I did it, but I realized computer engineering was more like hardware and everything. I just a little bit of software here and there, but it was more hardware. So you see, if I had known all these things before going into university, I probably would have focused maybe on computer science, something that was more aligned with hardware, with software, so which is what I was interested in. So I see, like you said, it's very true. I see it a lot where people just want to just study something.
Very focused on the single purpose that you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, just out of curiosity, how did you come around about MEST, because it seems to be quite pivotal, and then how did you find the courses, and how did you get this additional education while you were at MEST studying, trying to build your business? How did you make that happen?
Yeah, so first, a friend of mine who I went to university with went through MEST. So he usually posts about it in his circles on his LinkedIn. So I checked it out, and it seemed like, because I'd always known I wanted to do something in business, but I always knew, because the first company I worked at, what we're doing was trying to empower teachers. Teachers are, I don't know if you know anything about Nigeria, but teachers and lecturers in Nigeria are one of the most underpaid part of society. So we're trying to create a means for them to make more money from their work, the work they've already created.
In the business where you were working before. Yeah.
So that gave me like the idea that, look, if you want to make money, if you want to be a business person who's also proud of what they do and also make a lot of impact, your business needs to be empowering somebody else, right? You need to be creating a business that helps someone else make money, right? So that was the mindset, that was the frame of mind I was in. So, but I didn't know how to go about doing that. Like, yes, it was a good idea and everything, but how do I go about doing that? So when I found out about Nest, to train you on how to be an entrepreneur, all they want to know is, do you have the drive? Do you want to learn? Are you willing to subject yourself to like a training program for 1 year? So I applied for it. It was a very rigorous application process, but luckily I got in. And then as part of the training program, they encourage you to do a lot of exploring, a lot of research on your own. And I tried to make sure it's actually it's a really intense program, but as long as you're someone who has the drive to be an entrepreneur, it's intense, but you love the intensity of it, right? They teach you practical examples on what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what it means. And because of all the companies that have graduated from the program, there's a ready resource of people who are already doing what you're trying to do. So it's actually very easy for you to reach out to somebody, anybody, and they're always willing, anybody in the community is always willing to help you, like talk to you, give you 30 to 40 minutes of their time, listen to your concerns. So that was really, really pivotal, like you said, in my process.
You mentioned one thing that I find quite crucial just in the design of this program, at least as you describe it, is that they created the space so that you can do your own research and, you know, get an additional qualification, for example, and do all the market research. So it's really about, you know, not having just assumptions, but testing them out and really understanding what you're doing before you try to scale something that does not work.
Exactly. So yeah, market research is a huge part of the MEST program. You need to prove that you're building something people want. Yeah. So we did extensive market research when we spoke. I think so far we've spoken to, like, I have spoken to maybe 1,000 people on my own, right? Wow. At this point, I think I hate the sound of my voice now. I'm always, you know, talking to people, asking questions, trying to find out. So the market research is a huge part of the program. Like, you need to prove that what you're saying is, you're not just making assumptions that, like, out of the blue. You're taught how to strip your idea down to its basic assumptions. And like Cofundie, basically, when I checked it, it was stripped down to 12 assumptions. There's 12 assumptions that make up Cofundie, right? So if any of those assumptions are not true, then we have a problem. Yeah. So that was it. Like, so I actually have like an Excel sheet on my system that is all the assumptions that I have to hold for my business to work, and, you know, the different levels that we've gone to prove them. And that's what the Meltwater program does for you, right? It's not just an idea. So that gives me the confidence to talk about my idea anyway. I know what I'm saying. I know that I have something. I know that people want what I have.
Wow. So how did you practically approach this market research? Because you talked to 1,000 people, you say. Yeah. So you did not just sit in your office and read. I mean, you did also the theoretical part, the study, but then you talked to so many people. How did you approach that? Did you just ask anyone, or how did you go about it?
So it was more like, so I went to primary. So nowadays we're lucky, we're in a world where you can't lose contact with anybody. Anybody you come in contact with, there's always a way to reach out to them again in future. Yeah. So I went to primary school in Nigeria. I went to secondary school in another city in Nigeria. I went to university in another city in Nigeria. So these like 3 different cities that I'm able to draw on contacts. Right? So I basically just draw on my secondary school networks, my primary school networks, and my university networks. Their friends. I just like, hey, anybody who you're interested in, and everybody's always happy to help, right? It's like, hey, do you know anybody who's interested in what I'm doing? Like, yeah, sure, talk to this person. Or somebody's in their office and they've heard somebody mention that they want to be able to invest in something. They're like, hey, I know this guy. So it was always like my friends, their friends, and, you know, just reaching out on social media. I put out a lot of articles on Medium. People reached out to me via those articles. And yeah, it's just...
and it makes sense because, I mean, basically, because you're a platform, so you have 2 sides. One time the buyer side, someone that is looking at owning a home, and then you have the side of people that want to, invest so you can ask many people. Wow, that's very interesting. So now you went to MEST, you got your additional qualification, real estate investing. Then what was your next step? How did you actually launch this project? How did you make that happen?
Yeah, so after we did all the research we needed to do, we validated the assumption we needed to validate, and then we came together, thought of a name. It took us like a lot of time, but yeah, we came up with a very good name for it. And then because at MEST you get to pitch for seed funding at MEST. Yeah, so towards the last 3 months of the program where you settle down and prepare for your seed pitch. So yeah, we did everything we needed to do, created our deck, and then just last month in August, we pitched for seed funding. Luckily, we got seed funding from MEST, so we got about $100,000, and then.
So that gives you the runway now.
The runway we need.
Exactly. The project.
Exactly.
What is now? You have your first campaign up and running. How does it look right now, and what are challenges that you encounter, or is it all going like super smoothly?
No, nothing. I would be very worried if it was going very smoothly. But yeah, I mean, the challenges are usually just trust, right? We're a new business and we're asking people to give us their money. So a lot of people don't trust that we say we can do what we want to do. So we're working on creating the credibility that we need. And to do that, we're working with partnering with institutional companies already in the space, like property development companies, insurance companies, and banks. Yeah, so it's more of a credibility issue for now for us. People want to know. There's people who are like, after your first project, fine, I'll give you even $1,000 if you want. But how do we get the first project if you won't even give us any money? But we are solving that problem by just focusing on friends, family, and then friends of friends. So there's people who've sent me messages saying, person ABC told me about you, they told me you're trustworthy, so yeah, I'll give you my money. But yeah, I hope my money is safe. So I've actually had to go do meetings upon meetings with people who have their own questions to ask me. I mean, usually the same questions everybody has to ask, but yeah, I go sit with them, I let them know, look, you don't have anything to worry about. This everybody who's backing me, you can find out. These people wouldn't associate themselves with someone who's not trustworthy anyway. So and even just the mere fact, just sitting with people and just answering their questions, it puts them at ease a lot. So I've seen one person buy, because we divided into shares, and one share cost $300. So I've seen one person buy 10 shares, and just like, okay, after you've spoken to them and assured them.
$300 is the minimum invest in this project right now. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I get it. Friends and families, you have, they know where you are. You're right. So there is this, there's more, okay, if he runs away with my money, I know where he is. And
I know his dad's house, and all those kinds of things.
He will be at his dad's house, I'll find him.
Exactly.
Yeah, now for other people, that's a different challenge. Has being at MEST, has that helped you in building the credibility?
Yeah. I mean, the MEST community is made up of at least easily 1,500 people altogether, and most of the bulk of the money we've gotten so far have been from the MEST community. Okay. It's like people who don't even care, like, oh, this is what you're doing is fine, I'll support you, right? So most of the bulk of the money we've gotten towards the first project has come from within the MEST community. And there's people who they were not in the program when I was there, but they see that I was in the program, and that gives them the assurance that everything is fine.
Yeah. I think one thing that one can take away from this is also that you are a tech startup, you're a platform and online, and I think many people then think if they start something online that it means, okay, they can hide behind their computer, but again you say, no, I have to actually talk with every person. So basically I wouldn't even need the platform, I wouldn't even need the website, but of course that's the vision, so when you scale up everything will run through there, but now you have your first project and you talk with people directly, right? So I think that's a good learning.
Yeah, you're right, but I had that same ideas in my head when I first got into the program. You build a platform and then you sit back and watch the customers rolling. But nah, it never really works like that. And so there's this thing where you have to initially in the beginning do things that don't scale. So right now, going to see each and every person who wants to invest doesn't scale, but it's something that we need to do now to let people know that they can trust us. So eventually, hopefully, once we've put out our first project and we've paid the investors from the first project, they are the ones who speak about the platform for us. All we need to do is just sit back and they will tell people, look, I put my money here, I got my return as at when due, and I can vouch for them. Yeah. So for now, I try to do those things that don't scale so that we can then use the platform to scale in the future.
What have been the biggest challenges so far apart from the trust? Is there anything other that you've learned since you actually launched this first project?
Yeah. There's a lot of things, right? So land litigation, for example, in Africa, land laws are being weak. So we've been very careful not to fall into the trap of getting any disputed land, which is actually very common. Okay. So that's one big challenge that we faced. Second thing has been regulations, right? Regulations around like crowdfunding in Africa. It's still a little bit unclear for now. Yeah. But I mean, there's work going on around that. So we're also trying to make sure that we're on the right side of the law with everything that we do. And then also, since it's a multinational team, getting everybody in the same place at the same time. Different African countries have different immigration laws. I mean, it's lucky that we're all West Africans, and the ECOWAS, the law around easy movement within the West African countries sort of helps us a little bit, but there's still the need when you want to actually now do a business with people who are from different countries. It's still not as easy. It's actually really challenging. Yeah.
How do you? Okay, then let me start on the last one. Would I, as a German citizen, be able to invest as well, or would this be a challenge?
No. So yeah,
just with credit card.
Just with a credit card, you go on the platform, you see the project, you see all the rationale that we have. Everything I say to people when I go for meetings, it's on the platform. It's right there. Yeah. Like the rationale, why we think this is a good deal, how much we expect to make, the risk exposure, everybody who's involved, how much we as a platform is putting on the project ourselves. Basically everything that you need to know is on the platform. Yeah. So when you make your decision, you just put in your credit card, and then you get.
And can you limit the risk for investors by pre-selling the house? Do you already have the buyer for the house that you're building right now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's something we want to do long term, but for now we're not there yet, like where we can pre-sell it. But yes, pre-selling is something that we want to do, and that's why we're partnering with mortgage institutions, where they provide a sort of like a mortgage for people who want to buy the houses, right? So that investors know that, look, even when the house is ready, there's an institution willing to provide the financing for it, so that even if the person who wants to buy it doesn't have the full amount, they can still make the sale and still distribute the income to people.
And then my other question, because I think this, as you mentioned, is a big issue in many parts of Africa, is the land ownership. Who does the land belong to? How do you make sure that you actually build on a plot of land that that you have the rights for?
So for now we're mitigating that by focusing on institutional landowners. So there's property development companies that buy out huge plots of land. So we partner with them instead, because they have an interest in making sure that their name is not dragged in the muck, like they're selling land that's not properly taken care of. So we partner with them instead. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we know that there's sometimes maybe we may have to partner with and buy land from individuals, but for that we would probably devise a system where we can how do I put this? We devise a system where we can stagger the payments. We don't pay them outright, just stagger the payments. So if there's ever any problem, maybe somewhere in the life cycle, we can then rely on that staggered payments to make sure that there's no issue with it. But for now, we focus on institutional landowners, because right now it's our first project. We can't afford any hiccups whatsoever right now. So let's focus on those guys.
Personally, for you, this entrepreneurial journey, is it very challenging?
Yeah, extremely. It's even. I knew it was going to be challenging because I come from a family of people who are entrepreneurs who have done business, but it's way once you're in it, right, it's way more challenging than anything you can imagine. It's challenging, but it's also fulfilling, because there's a lot of things, like just the atmosphere of doing business in Africa is not as easy as it might seem from the outside. There's so many things, so many invisible barriers that you can't foresee, you can't prepare for. Just hits you once you get in there. So that's what we're beginning to realize. But it's also fulfilling because we know we're solving a problem that will make people that will affect like individual lives. So that's the driving force. So when we hit those challenges, we just remind ourselves that we're doing this for like a bigger purpose. But like there's so many little things, just you're trying to do business here, trying to register your businesses. There's just so many little things here and there.
What is your personal way of dealing with these challenges? How do you do that? How do you find back to a place of inner peace, or or inspiration, or if at all? I don't know.
I mean, part of it is like I said, in my head, I know that there's this goal we're looking at. Like we want to mainstream. So it's like we want to mainstream alternative materials as a means of building, right? It's a big goal, it's huge, and that's bigger than even me, it's bigger than my organization, right? So I know that I'm part of like a movement that's trying to change the way the real estate industry in West Africa and Africa as a whole operates. So when I hit those challenges, I just realized, look, I'm just trying to do my own part in my own small corner. But when things become too and it's something that I've always had, even when I was studying engineering, when things become too huge, look like they're overwhelming, I just switch off, take a step back from everything and focus on something completely different. Usually when I'm doing that, like in my subconscious, whatever the problem is working its way through my subconscious, and somehow the solution or a proposed solution sort of presents itself.
That's powerful. I think this, actually knowing that the entire problem and the entire movement is bigger than oneself also means, well, I can do my part, but I'm not responsible for every single thing happening.
Exactly.
So there needs to be a big element of trust and just letting life work for you, or your subconscious work for you, or the subconscious of everything work for you. Yeah. Wow. My final question would be, what would be your advice to a young person from Nigeria today?
I'll say just forget about the limitations, right? There's always going to be limitations here in Nigeria. We all know the problems that we face, but it's not an excuse, because there's people who have come before you and they've made it work, right? I think even as Nigerians, you even have a better opportunity to make it work as an entrepreneur than I think most anybody else, because the challenges you face just surviving in Nigeria or living your natural life, they prepare you, they make you not they make you feel the normal entrepreneurship challenges a bit less than somebody who comes from a place where everything just sort of works for you. So to give you an example, when I had my job I told you I lived very far from my office and I couldn't get a place because houses were too expensive. So I had to always wake up by 4 o'clock in the morning and make my way to the office. I get to the office, but if I didn't get to the office if I didn't wake up by 4, I'll get to the office late. So I get to the office by 6, right? And then I would maybe sleep a little bit and then start working. But you see, what happened was that thing made me every day, even till today, I still wake up every day by at least 5 o'clock. And when it's not a problem for me, it's like just part of my life now, and that it makes me able to achieve more throughout the entire day. So my advice to any Nigerian youth out there is forget about the challenges and just see it as a benefit for yourself. I think there's something, whenever we get to that point in Nigeria where everything now works, I think we're going to lose something.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, very inspiring. And for people that want to invest, they go to www.cofundie.com and check it out and help these guys.
It's very self-explanatory. You see everything you need to know about the project and why it's a good deal. You can make a very informed decision by yourself.
Thank you so much, and more power to you.
Thank you very much.